Hello friends, welcome back to Defense Today, and we're back with some latest developments in the Russia-Ukraine crisis. Recently, the White House has confirmed that U.S. President Joe Biden and Russian President Vladimir Putin have agreed, in principle, to a summit over Ukraine as long as Russia makes no invasion of Ukraine. Jen Psaki, White House press secretary, stated, "We're always ready for diplomacy. We're also ready to impose swift and severe consequences should Russia instead choose war. And currently, Russia appears to be continuing preparations for a full-scale assault on Ukraine very soon." Presidents Biden and Putin have both accepted the principle of such a summit. French President Emmanuel Macron assisted in initiating the potential talks between the two leaders. The White House said the administration has been clear that we are committed to pursuing diplomacy until the moment an invasion begins. Now, U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken and Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov are set to meet on Thursday in Europe as long as Russia does not send its troops into Ukraine beforehand. The French president stated, "The President of the Republic spoke with the President of the United States, Mr. Joe Biden, and the President of the Russian Federation, Mr. Vladimir Putin. He proposed a summit to be held between President Biden and President Putin, and then with relevant stakeholders to discuss security and strategic stability in Europe. Presidents Biden and Putin have both accepted the principle of such a summit. This announcement came out after Macron had a meeting with several leaders over the phone." On Sunday, Russia canceled earlier promises to pull back a large number of troops from Ukraine's northern border, a move that U.S. leaders said put Russia another step closer to what they said was the planned invasion of Ukraine. Russia's present actions, which were planned for military exercises, brought an immense amount of 30,000 Russian forces to Belarus, a neighbor to Ukraine. They're among at least 150,000 Russian troops now deployed outside Ukraine's borders, along with tanks, warplanes, artillery, and other war equipment. Tension has increased more as the Belarusian Defense Ministry announced that Russia would extend military drills in Belarus that were due to end Sunday. In the meantime, the White House announced that Biden has canceled his trip to Delaware and will stay in Washington after meeting with his National Security Council. Satellite images appeared to show new deployments of Russian armor and troops close to Ukraine. Maxar, a U.S.-based satellite imagery company, reported that several new military units have been deployed by Russia into forests, farms, and industrial areas as little as 15 kilometers from the border with Ukraine. Maxar stated, "Until recently, most of the deployments had been seen primarily positioned at or near existing military garrisons and training areas. The continued deployment of the Russian forces in Belarus increases worry that Russia may use those troops to sweep down on the Ukrainian capital, Kyiv." Antony Blinken, U.S. Secretary of State, commented, "Everything we're seeing suggests that this is dead serious. Until the tanks are actually rolling and the planes are flying, we'll use every opportunity and every minute we have to see if diplomacy can still dissuade President Putin from carrying this forward." The United States and many European countries have claimed for weeks that Putin has already built up the forces he needed for invading Ukraine. On Sunday, a U.S. official said Biden's assertion that Putin has made the decision to roll Russian forces into Ukraine was based on intelligence that Russian frontline commanders have been given orders to begin final preparations for an attack. Russia held nuclear drills Saturday, as well as the conventional exercises in Belarus, and has ongoing naval drills off the coast in the Black Sea. The announcement that Russia was reversing its promise to withdraw its forces from Belarus came after 2 days of sustained shelling along a contact line between Ukraine's soldiers and Russian allied separatists in eastern Ukraine. U.S. Vice President Kamala Harris said at the security conference in Munich that "We're talking about the potential for war in Europe. It's been over 70 years, and through those 70 years there has been peace and security." Biden had convened the National Security Council at the White House to discuss Russia's military buildup around Ukraine. White House officials haven't released any immediate details of their roughly 2 hours meeting. On Sunday, Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky appealed on Twitter for a ceasefire. Russia has denied plans to invade, but the Kremlin did not respond to Mr. Zelensky's offer Saturday to meet with Mr. Putin. On Sunday, Macron and Putin conducted 2 meetings over the phone. The meeting lasted over 165 minutes. They discussed matters such as the Kremlin's accusations of the Ukrainian army firing shells violating the ceasefire, and then they're firing at separatist rebel-held regions in eastern Ukraine. Putin also told Macron that the U.S. and NATO need to take Russian demands for security guarantees seriously. Putin said, "It's important to intensify efforts to find solutions through diplomatic means." Macron also spoke separately to Mr. Zelensky, to British Prime Minister Boris Johnson, and to Mr. Biden. Blinken said that Mr. Biden was prepared to meet President Putin at any time in any format if that can help prevent a war, and the U.S. official said Mr. Macron had then conveyed the offer of talks to Putin, conditioned on Russia not invading Ukraine. At present, worries are focused on eastern Ukraine, where Ukrainian forces have been fighting the pro-Russia rebels since 2014 in a conflict that's killed some 14,000 people. In the eastern Ukraine regions of Lugansk and Donetsk, separatist leaders have ordered a full military mobilization and sent more civilians to Russia, which has issued about 700,000 passports to residents of the rebel-held territories. Claims that Russian citizens are being endangered might be used as justification for military action. Reports state that Ukrainian forces launched several artillery attacks over the past day, and that 2 civilians were killed during an unsuccessful assault on a village near the Russian border. Ukraine's military said 2 soldiers died in firing from the separatist side on Saturday. Dmitry Peskov, a Russian spokesperson, said, "When tension is escalated to the maximum, as it is now, for example, on the line of contact, then any spark, any unplanned incident, or any minor planned provocation can lead to irreparable consequences. Till now, the life of normal people in Kyiv is not heavily disturbed yet. Recently, residents of Kyiv have gathered in a cathedral to pray for peace." Katerina Spanchik, who led a region of eastern Ukraine when it was taken over by Russian allied separatists, was among worshippers. Ms. Spanchik said, "We all love life, and we are all united by our love of life. We should appreciate it every day. That's why I think everything will be fine." Another worshipper said, "Our joint prayers will help to elude this tragedy, which is advancing." On Monday, Putin said that he no longer felt that the 2015 plan agreed with France, Germany, and Kyiv would be able to resolve Ukraine's separatist conflict. Putin says, "We understand that there are no prospects for the implementation of the 2015 Minsk peace accords. These accords were earlier agreed in the capital of Belarus to end hostility between Ukraine's army and pro-Moscow rebels in the east of the country." Putin warned that Western powers were using Moscow's feud with Ukraine to threaten Russia's own security, and said he was considering recognizing the independence of 2 breakaway Russian-backed regions. Moscow appeared to be already laying the groundwork for openly backing the separatist regions of Donetsk and Lugansk. Report says that Russian forces had intercepted and killed 5 Ukrainian saboteurs who infiltrated Russian territory and accused Ukraine of shelling a border post. But Ukraine denied these events. Dmytro Kuleba, foreign minister of Ukraine, wrote, "Ukraine also does not plan any such actions. Russia, stop your fake producing factory now." With Russia having amassed thousands of troops along Ukraine's northern and eastern borders, Ukrainians living in border cities are bracing for an imminent Russian invasion. Zelensky warned that Russians could target the border town of Kharkiv first if they decide to invade Ukraine. In Kharkiv, the local administration is preparing bunkers for the safety of civilians in the case of an attack by Russian troops. We'll end with a hopeful note from Ukraine's Daria Knok, who's chief of the Kharkiv youth wing of the European Solidarity Party. She said, "We all know that there are a lot of Russian tanks and troops on the border between Kharkiv and Russia. But we never know what's in Putin's head. We're not sure if something will happen, but if something will happen, we're ready. That's all for today. We'll be back soon with more latest updates. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe for more videos like this. Hit the like button if you find the video interesting, and kindly provide your valuable feedback in the comment section. This will help us to improve.